Welcome back, everybody. I'm I-Team Chief Mike Magnoli. Today, I've got the 5th interview in our series of conversations with candidates running for state attorney in Palm Beach County. We are on the home stretch. That is to say, I've introduced you to everyone running for that office. After today, we've got one more candidate to chat with. Our current state attorney, Dave Aronberg, is not seeking re-election. Dave first won that role in 2012, and he was re-elected without opposition in 2016 and 2020. Well, in this race, there's a primary. That'll be on August 20th, and from there, a Republican and a Democrat will advance to the next round in the general election in November. There's also a non-party affiliated candidate. So today we have Sam Stern. He is a Republican, and before we talk with him live, let's learn some more about his background. Sam Stern is licensed to practice law in Florida, New Jersey, New York, and D.C. He comes from a family of prosecutors. His dad and granddad were well known in the Northeast. Stern was an assistant U.S. attorney for a year, then a prosecutor in the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office for a year as well. He's now in private practice, and he teaches trial advocacy at the University of Miami's Law School and the University of Virginia's Law School. One of his ideas is to create a task force in the State Attorney's Office to deal with felons caught committing gun crimes. On the lighter side, Stern is a published author. In parts of his book, entitled The Absolute Beginner's Guide to Cross-Examination, Stern takes 2 Hollywood movies about fictional court cases where key moments happen on the witness stand, and he dissects them. What could really happen, and what couldn't? What was effective, and what wasn't? He uses A Few Good Men, You Can't Handle the Truth, and My Cousin Vinny. Stern says he wants the job of state attorney because his parents live in South Florida and he's raising his family here, and he wants to make our community safer. Yes, he's passionate about making the community safer. Sam, let's hear it in your own words. Why do you want this job? Why are you running for office?
Well, first off, Mike, thank you very much for having me. I'm extremely excited at the opportunity to lead my former office where I used to work. I'm passionate about being a prosecutor, about defending the rights of victims, about keeping our community safer, community where my wife and our 2 boys and my parents and my mother-in-law and lots of people live. This is where we live, and this is the place to do it, to be the prosecutor and the chief law enforcement officer for Palm Beach County.
I want to talk about the high-profile cases, the high-stakes cases. Sam, the public doesn't like plea bargaining very much. I know there are risks when you move something to trial. When you put something in the hands of a jury, it's unpredictable. But in the cases where there's lots of evidence and lots of eyes on the case, do you think that prosecuting to the full extent of the law means going to trial?
So when it comes to plea bargaining, my views on this are fairly simple. We will make a deal when it's the right deal, based on the facts and the evidence. We're not going to sell out cases. We're not going to give cases away due to backlogs or anything of that nature. It's going to be an independent, fact-by-fact, case-by-case decision. The right deal is the only deal that we'll accept.
I want to pick your brain about the death penalty. It's not sought often in Palm Beach County. Under what circumstances would you seek it? And I'd like to hear your thoughts on what happened with Parkland school shooter Nick Cruz in the sentencing phase. For him, 1 holdout on the jury resulted in his life being spared. What do you make of that?
Well, in terms of the last part first, in terms of what happened to Parkland, there was 1 holdout. That was the process. The State Attorney's Office seeks the death penalty, but we don't impose it. That's up to the jury. The law has since changed. It no longer requires a unanimous jury.
That's right.
Our job as the State Attorney's Office is to find those meritorious cases that deserve consideration of the capital punishment by a jury of the community. We'll bring it. We'll make the argument for it where appropriate. In terms of the first part of your question, the answer is the cases will be determined based upon the merit of the case, whether it conforms with the statute, and whether seeking that kind of penalty is appropriate for the consideration of the jury of the community.
How do you feel about the law being changed as a result of what happened in his sentencing phase?
As state attorney, I don't make the laws. I don't weigh in on the laws. We deal with the laws as they are. We enforce them. That's the job. And we'll deal with those laws as they are. That and every other law that's on the books.
Sam, that kind of brings me to the next question, and it's about what happened with the 2 prosecutors who Governor DeSantis sidelined because those 2 prosecutors said they wouldn't enforce laws that were passed that they did not agree with. If you found yourself in a situation where you personally did not agree with a law that was passed, would you be willing to go head-to-head with the governor, and would you be willing to lose your job over it?
If I didn't believe in enforcing the laws as passed by our legislature, then I shouldn't be the state attorney. I'm not running to not enforce the law. I'm running to enforce the law. That's the job. And the people of Palm Beach County can be assured that I'm not going to disregard the laws in performance of my duty. That's the oath we take. That's why I'm going through this process.
What are some ideas that you have for changing how the office works?
Well, we have a short amount of time here, but I can assure the people of this county that we're going to do a full review. There'll be reorganization, probably. There's always change. But change is good. Change is invigorating. We're going to work on the skills, the training. We're going to make the prosecutor's office a more able body in terms of its investigatory practices, in terms of its training from young people to more experienced people. My background, as you did on our lead-in, demonstrates that I'm passionate about teaching prosecutors how to be better prosecutors. And I fully intend to spend a fair amount of time doing that, leading from the front.
Is there any policy changes that you would call for? As an example, if it's a gun crime and you have a perpetrator under 18 years old?
Well, I'm not going to announce any policy changes at this juncture. What I can tell you, let's take gun cases as an example.
Okay.
If you're a felon in possession of a firearm, there's a 3-year mandatory minimum statute.
You want to do a task force on this, right?
Well, we're going to do a task force in terms of making sure that we're finding these people, prosecute. But in terms of the back end of this, what I want to be clear about is, if you're a felon in possession of a firearm, we are not going to plead down a solid case, going back to your earlier question, for expediency. If you're a felon in possession of a firearm, you are one of the most dangerous people walking around the county because your intent is to use that firearm for no good purposes. So we're going to be very vigorous about that, and there'll be other things that we intend to be highly vigorous about as well in keeping this community safe.
All right. How's the campaign trail going so far? This is your first time running for office, right?
It is. It's a wonderful experience. It's very exciting. You get to meet people. You get to hear their concerns. It has really been a life-changing experience for me and my family, and just very excited as it continues.
Is there a question that keeps coming up when you're out meeting folks? Is there something that you hear from them? And I have limited time left, but is there one question that you hear a lot out there?
Gosh, I don't know if there's one singular question other than the fact that people want to feel safe.
Absolutely.
They want to feel safe when they walk down the streets.
Yep.
They don't want to be looking over their shoulder, and they know and understand that the state attorney's office is instrumental in creating the conditions for a community to be a safe community, because they've seen what's happened in other communities around the country.
Sure.
And they understand that one person can choose not to enforce the law and can make a community very unpleasant to live in. And they're very excited for somebody like me who's going to enforce the law and make this a wonderful place to live.
Sam Stern, Republican for State Attorney. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.